What's up? Welcome to ESPN FC live here on YouTube alongside Miguel Echegaray and Stevie Nicol. I'm Dalen. I'm not coming to you from Shawshank. We're in the midst of a move here, boys. So we're going to get the background figured out. We got a lot to talk about there, too. Arsenal, Chelsea is where we'll begin. Erik Ten Hag firing back at the media, although they got past Coventry City. There were some questions, obviously, that performance. And who will succeed Jurgen Klopp? Arne Slot seems like the man for the job. But let's get back to Arsenal, Chelsea. Great to be with you. I haven't seen you guys in a while. And to come off a 5-0 drubbing, the Gunners gave the Blues. Good time for me to be back. Let's start, though, Mauricio Pochettino post-game press conference. Let's hear what he had to say after that loss.
I feel disappointed. I feel really bad. I don't feel great. I think the performance wasn't good. We didn't start the game in the way that we're supposed to start. I think we concede the goal so easy. We make the things easy for Arsenal and start the game, losing the game, and it was really tough. We were talking on the halftime that it's not possible to start the game like this, but we started in a bad way again and conceding 2 goals. In this moment, I think the team gave up and we were not on the game. We are showing this inconsistency, that is why we are where we are, because we are capable to have amazing performance and 3 days after to show, to be in extremes. Our standard, no sustain the bad days. When we have bad days, we are so bad. And then when we are good, we are capable of everything. That is another thing that we need to, to be aware that we need to increase for the future. In the same way that from here, we go here, this group of players from here can move here in a few days. That is a good thing. It's a positive thing. Because we are not capable to keep, the focus, and we are capable to go down. And in the same way, we are capable to be here and go high in a few days.
All right, there's a lot to unpack there. Stevie, I'll let you start. What was your takeaway from what was a lot said in a minute and 40 seconds?
Well, he's basically talking about what happens with young players, and I've been trying to figure out how to explain it and make it easy for you. So here's what I come up with. I remember when the average age pretty much of Chelsea's team without Thiago Silva is 23. When I was 23, I was still learning my trade. When I was 23, I was a completely different player when I was 25. That 2-year period of being in the team and out the team. And by the time I hit 24 and a half, I'm playing every game because I've reached a stage where my level is consistent. It's a different ball game. My football brain was completely different when I was 25 to what it was when I was 23. And so you've got a Chelsea team that are full of 23-year-olds. And so when things get difficult, they don't know what to do. And why should they know what to do? Because they don't have the experience. And more importantly, they don't have anybody on the field when Thiago Silva's not there to lead them. I mean, at least defensively when he's there, they're definitely better. There's no question. He organises them, he helps them. But you need that throughout the side. You can't just throw a bunch of young players together, whether it's the Premier League or anywhere else, and think that every time they step on the field, they're going to be at their best. Pochettino's talking about when they're all at their best because they've all got ability. And so on certain days when they're all at it, they look like a team. But then unfortunately, because of the youth, because of the inexperience, when they're not at their best, they look so bad and there's nobody to follow. I mean, so this shouldn't really be a surprise to anybody. And I kind of feel a little bit sorry for Pochettino because he didn't put this team together. He's been told to try and put it together and make it a unit. And it's nigh on impossible, maybe too much to say. But my goodness, what a tough job he's got.
Luis?
Now, Dalen, you're going to have a very easy show today because everything that Stevie Nicol just said is spot on. It's exactly where I was going. Chelsea's biggest issue is that, number one, they're a little bit like, Derek Zoolander in that first movie when he's looking at self in the reflection on the road and he's saying, who am I? Like, we don't know who you are, Chelsea Football Club. You have no identity. And Stevie Nicol, when he's talking about the age thing, he's absolutely spot on. Against Manchester City, defensively, Cucurella was the only one playing in that back four. Thiago Silva didn't start. Chabola didn't start. Gusto didn't start. Gusto, who's young in itself. Anyway, against Arsenal, right, they had a much younger back line aside from Cucurella, who's still only 25, 26. Now, Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo in the middle. On paper, on FIFA, on Football Manager, it looks beautiful, right? Two wonderful players, international acumen. One of them is 23, the other one is 20. How can you rely on that midfield after the FA Cup game, right, against Manchester City, and then days later against Arsenal, who are trying to win the Premier League title, who were wonderful, by the way. Let's not take away what Arsenal did in that game, 5-0 against Chelsea. And then you go up front, or at least the lineup, and you have Gallagher, Madueke, Jackson. They're all in their 20s. So Stevie is spot on. When you have a youthful side like this, of course you're going to have your good moments and you're going to have your bad moments. But when you don't have experience, when you don't have experienced metal, when you don't have a sort of late 20s, even early 30s in this time of day in the modern football game, then you're not going to have balanced performances. By the way, Pochettino, I'm a massive fan of his. And part of it, a small part of it is his fault because defensively, they've conceded 57 goals in the Premier League. That's the most in history in the Premier League for Chelsea. And we know that Pochettino can suffer a little bit. But you can't. What can you do when you have this youthful side? You can't do it. Ever since Clear Lake Capital came in the summer of 2022, they've spent more than €1 billion. They came 12th last season. They're 9th right now, right? And it's because the people that they're bringing in, as wonderfully talented as they are, they're kids. You cannot completely fill a unit, a squad, and compete with the likes of Manchester City and Arsenal in the space of a few days and think that you're going to deliver. Of course, this is going to happen. So I'm with Stevie too. You shouldn't be surprised by any of this.
One thing that's interesting is you have a team, as we get Stevie back in the mix here, with Clear Lake Capital coming in, as you mentioned. The organization has to be run by people that understand what is needed to win games. So as we just have outlined, Poch has this hand. He's dealt this hand, and he's in this situation. Stevie, is he going to be absolved of this, or ultimately are these guys going to look and say, all right, well, he didn't get it done. On to the next one again. We're going to go our third coach in essentially 3 years of running the ship here. A third full-time coach, I should say. Stevie, is that what or is he going to be given a chance to sit there in the summer, maybe have some input, help work with them to get some guys that actually maybe help this thing become a cohesive unit? What do you think is going to happen to Poch here?
Well, ultimately, he's going to end up going because the way that they've structured the players' contracts, nobody's going to be taking any of their players, whether if they're available or not. Teams won't be able to afford them. They're all on 7, 8, and 9 year contracts. They're all on big money, and so regardless if they want to get rid of a load of players, they're not going to be able to do it. And so nothing's really going to change on the field unless all of a sudden half a dozen young players get it. That's pretty unlikely. If that's what you're relying on, then you're in big trouble. And as I said, ultimately the manager eventually will be pushed aside and they'll bring somebody else in. So listen, the key is not always just about the manager. It's about your recruitment, and they've got the recruitment horribly wrong. And that's where they should be pointing the finger right now. The people upstairs who were brought in to do the recruitment have made a complete and utter mess of it. And I don't care whether it's Pochettino or anybody else, when you're dealing with what they have, it's so difficult to try and get some sort of consistency. But again, I'll repeat it. Ultimately, when this doesn't change, because there's no reason why it should change, Poch will go. That's the only thing we know. Hired to be fired, sometimes quicker than others. But when you land at Chelsea the way they are, you're in trouble.
Element, you agree?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one point, which Stevie was talking about, the structure and the decision makers, and how after spending more than €1 billion in the summer of 2022, I have to reinforce that to Chelsea fans, because it's not just some number, it's a massive number, right? And, part of the transfers that have come in due to amortization, right? Signing a player for 8 years and then paying it off, over the course of a period, which is also a gamble because anything can happen in 8 years. But here's a big component here, Dalen. In January, we started getting reports and insinuations of basically how the structure works there at Chelsea, where Mauricio Pochettino has a say in transfers, but he doesn't have the powerful say. And most importantly, he can't veto, right? Everything pretty much is down to the sporting directors, Paul Winstanley and Lawrence Stewart. They make the decisions. And in fact, there was a presser where Mauricio Pochettino almost was showing his frustration on how, I'm not the one ultimately that really makes all the decisions when it comes to transfers. And that's a big, big problem. If you want to succeed in the Premier League, right? Not just any league, but the Premier League, you have to make sure that your pyramid, your directorial pyramid, from your sporting director to your head of operations to your manager, you're all focused on one objective, right? And the best possible examples of success, whether you're talking about Jurgen Klopp or Pep Guardiola or even Unai Emery right now with Aston Villa or Mikel Arteta now in his 4th season with Edu, everybody is in sync. They're in sync, right? It's the same reason why Manchester United are suffering right now and why Chelsea is suffering, because there clearly doesn't seem to be a sync. So at some point, whether it's Pochettino or the next man in, he needs to have a say on what happens, and the vision needs to be completely parallel with everybody else. And that's not what's happening at Chelsea Football Club right now.
I mean, I'll add in one other club to that too that did something similar in terms of going in young players was Arsenal. I mean, and Edu coming in and having kind of, to your point, being empowered to kind of run some football decisions along with Arteta and the Cronkies, for lack of a better term, getting out of the way, but also funding, maybe providing more funding, allowed them to go get a lot of younger players. But that's a years-long project. And with an identity of here's how we're going to try to play, and we're going to build, and we're going to add Jesus and Zinchenko, and Xhaka got the most out of him ever in the last couple of years before he went off back to Germany. But there are things that they did within that organization. But if you have to be kind of aligned, and it's a long process, but these guys are trying to hit home runs, and that's not really, it has not come through at all.
And by the way, even when it wasn't working, right, at the very beginning, because Mikel Arteta did go through some tough times, even when it wasn't working, they were aligned with their same philosophy, sticking to it, feeling that at some point this was going to work. The project, the process was going to work. What's happening with Chelsea right now is they're just throwing things at the wall, right? Moises Caicedo, we'll buy him for a record transfer fee. Enzo Fernandez too. Oh, Carney Chukwuemeka wants to come from Villa. We'll spend a ridiculous amount of money as well. There's a lot of talent. I don't want to take anything away from the talented individuals at Chelsea. It's just that they're not working collectively because, like you said, that was happening with Edu and Arsenal. There was patience or whatever. There was a vision. There's no vision right now with Chelsea, and it's worrying. 12th last season, 9th right now, no trophy, no European football. That's worrying.
Yeah, and you have idiot fans like me. They're questioning the project, but if you have the ownership and the team believing in it, then eventually you may be able to see it through. All right, let's go to another program that's in some less difficulty, but I mean, Erik ten Hag and Manchester United, bear in mind, they have not won a league game since March 9th. Now, they did get past Coventry City up 3-0. They get by, they lose the last 20 minutes. They give up 3 goals. They end up winning in pens. They move on and rematch City in May 25th for the FA Cup final from last year, which they obviously lost. But here are his comments in the post game. I say after that game had taken place, him hitting back at the media. Take a listen.
The reaction to Sunday is almost as though you lost the game rather than actually got to the FA Cup final. Can you understand that, given how the game went?
No, absolutely not. And you made it off, and one made the question, is it embarrassing? No, the reactions from you was embarrassed.
Why do you say that?
Why, it is. The comments in football, top football is about results. And we made it to the final, and we deserved it. Not only by this game, but also the other games. And we lost. And then in 20-minute control, also had a bad luck, 3-2, 3-3. We were very lucky in the end, clear. With penalties was very good. And we made it to the final. And that is a huge achievement. Twice in 2 years. is magnificent. For me as a manager, 4 cup finals in 4 years. And so the comments are a disgrace.
The end of that is telling. He made it a little bit about himself there. I've been to 4 straight cup finals, of course, coming from the Eredivisie. Stevie, your reaction to that sound?
He's on an island, isn't he? He's the only person that thinks the way he's thinking. I mean, you could hear the journalists basically going, really? You really think that? I mean, it's akin to a U18 side beating a U14 team 3-2. That's embarrassing. That's what this is. We're talking about Coventry here, who are halfway down the league below you, whose budget doesn't reach one of your players. Never mind the whole team. And then you're going to try and pat yourself on the back when you've been outplayed again. I mean, the fact that people are calling this an embarrassment isn't just about that one game. Because we all know what strange things happen in cup football, particularly the FA Cup. And we all get that. The problem is, Manchester United have been doing what they did in this game all season long. And it's just another game where they've completely messed up. And that's why everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. This is what it's all about. It's about the whole season. And you've done it again. And somehow you've gotten away with it. I mean, he's just scratching around. I mean, even his players after the game pretty much said, I don't know how we managed this. We were lucky. They were better than us. We played like a bunch of kids. That's what Harry Maguire said. We played like a bunch of kids. But he's trying to put this off as some fantastic achievement when basically you're beating a U14 team. I mean, come on. He's as I said, he's on an island. He's the only person on the planet that is trying to give him and the team some credit for this performance.
Elami?
I think he's cracking under the pressure. And I think that he's, in a way, fighting for his job. And I think that everything that is coming out of his mouth right now is trying to defend both his and his team. And I agree with Stevie, there's nothing to celebrate when you beat a Coventry City team that it was only a few years ago they were in League Two and then, a game away from an FA Cup final. And of course, the things that they're doing in the championship. So it's amazing that they got that far. So there's nothing. And then obviously the Anthony thing that happened, over celebrating, didn't help things. So I know you can just see it. You can just see it in his eyes that Erik ten Hag is cracking under the pressure. The questions keep coming. The pressure keeps going. And a very small part of me, Dalen and Stevie, feels for him because a very small part, not a massive part, but a very small part feels for him because he did enter an absolute circus. And, per statistics, he does have the most winningest percentage, including Sir Alex Ferguson, out of any Manchester United manager right now. And he does have a trophy. And he is correct. He has gotten them to a final. However, for the money that Manchester United has spent, for the squad that they are, it's absolutely, it's just not, you can't defend the fact that Manchester United are once again going to be looking at a position in the league table where, in terms of how much they have spent and what they are historically, is almost to the point of embarrassing, right? So it's kind of like a 50-50 or maybe a 70-30, where the 30 I feel for him, but there's no excuses. And here's my final point, by the way. I think that there's a lot of individual issues that he has had with players over the course of the season that worry me. Alejandro Garnacho reportedly was not happy with him in the recent matches, specifically in how he managed his minutes. Obviously, we know about the Jadon Sancho situation early on when he had to deal with the Cristiano Ronaldo situation. He had some problems as well with Anthony. So there are a few man management issues that I keep saying from Erik ten Hag, which is usually, apparently he treats his training sessions so regimentally that can be an issue for Manchester United. So, I feel for him this much, but Stevie's right. There's nothing to defend when you celebrate that well against a Coventry City team when you really shouldn't have won that game, right? It was poetic injustice that you did it. You're Manchester United. You should be looking and aiming for much higher. So those answers, those replies in the pressers, they're absolutely him showing evidence of cracking under the pressure.
Now, you mentioned the league table. Where they sit right now is 7th. Now, they're tied on points with Newcastle, but they're 18 goals behind them in terms of goal difference. So they're out of Europe currently, as Europe is currently constituted, is whatever. But let me ask you this: with the sympathetic, empathetic LME that you are right now, is he going to be the guy that they're going to stick with in the summer? I mean, obviously this organization is going through transition. Is he the guy that's going to maintain this job as he, as you mentioned, is kind of pleading for his case in the media at times?
It depends on a lot of things. Now, had you asked me this like a month ago, I would have been like, he's done, he's gone. But everything that I'm reading and I'm seeing specifically from our very own Mark Ogden, at this very moment, they are planning the summer and the preseason with Erik ten Hag. Now, at this very moment, obviously in this industry, in this game of ours, that can change overnight. But it depends on a few things. Number one, if they win the FA Cup, which is not realistic, Man City are the favorites, but if they win it, they get a Europa League spot. Is that enough for Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos to say, okay, at least we have something, we have a trophy, let's build on this? Also, Dan Ashworth, if he leaves Newcastle and eventually joins Manchester United as sporting director, with Jason Wilcox, does that become a strong relationship for him? Because obviously, once Dan Ashworth comes in, who's very good friends with Gareth Southgate, will he be a favorite? So there's a lot of components there. Now, let's see. Here's the other problem I have. Let's say Erik ten Hag is gone, right? He leaves. Bye-bye, Erik ten Hag. Let's look at the candidates, because there's a lot of big clubs, big clubs, who are also looking at managers who have probably a better financial stable situation. Not talking about Barcelona, but others, right? Like, who is available if not Erik ten Hag? Roberto De Zerbi? I mean, clearly he's done wonderful things with Brighton, but is his temperament, his character going to mix well with Manchester United? How about Gareth Southgate, who I just mentioned? Well, he hasn't managed a club since 2009. And when you have an England squad like that, I mean, the semifinals or a final is the least I expect of you. I'm sorry. So what's going to happen when you manage a club? So that's the other one I think of. Zidane is not taking this. So, who is replacing Erik ten Hag? And are they fundamentally better than Erik ten Hag? So is it better for you to stick with him with new ownership or at least new management under Sir Jurgen Ratcliffe and say, all right, Erik ten Hag, here's what we want to do. Let's go for it. But there's a lot of things that depend on this situation. I mean, but a month ago, I would have said to you, no, he's gone. But at this very moment, per our Mark Ogden, Man United are planning this summer with Erik ten Hag.
Stevie, a similar question, but I guess a little bit of a different bent on it. Is he the right guy, and with new organizational leadership, to lead them back to where they're expected to be, which is not beating Coventry City in a semifinal for the FA Cup? It's competing for the title, for the Premier League title, and competing to win the Champions League. Is he the right guy to do that?
So the question is, why do you keep him? Crickets? Why do you keep him?
I thought it was rhetorical.
There's not a reason.
Exactly. But Stevie, I hear you. I hear you 100%. But if you get rid of him, who do you put in? Who's realistically going to take the job? Crickets again.
Well, I think you.
We have to talk on the show.
I think ultimately, you got to bite the bullet and put somebody in there on a short-term basis.
And you gamble.
Yeah. Because you can't have a guy in charge who the players clearly don't trust him. They clearly, what's he telling them? Because whatever he's telling them, they're not following it. So why would you keep somebody in charge who really doesn't have any sort of control over the players? Yeah. They're not winning games because they're organised and maybe they're not at their best, but they've got good shape and this and that. They're winning games because they've got ability, but they're not a team. They've got ability. They're getting away with it because Rashford maybe on one day will score a goal. You've got Garnacho who's dangerous. He'll get you a goal. You've got Bruno Fernandes who can get you a goal. You've got ability and you're getting by on just somebody coming up with a goal to win you a game or get you a draw or whatever it is. Why do you keep a guy who the players clearly either don't listen to him or don't know what he's talking about?
Yeah,
it makes no sense.
Very.
As I said, I think you bite the bullet and you get somebody and put them in a short-term position, and you make it clear that right now we feel as though we're not going in the right direction, and we need to stop that. And that means that we're going to have to make a change, but it's going to be a short-term change. Just be open, and nobody's going to complain, because right now, nobody who wants Ten Hag. Man United fans don't want Ten Hag. Everybody else wants Ten Hag to stay there.
Listen, the only person I think that could maybe come in and really fix this circus and try and get them, and that's dependent on what he makes his decision with Real Madrid, is Carlo Ancelotti. I think that if he came to Manchester United, he would fix a lot of things. And again, this is a very ideological dream scenario. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but I'm saying like that's the kind of manager you need. Stevie mentioned a short answer. Like, I don't know if that's exactly what Sir Jim Ratcliffe is going to go for, because he's coming in with a plan. So if it's not Erik ten Hag, you have to go for somebody that's proven, that's going to control the dressing room, that's going to be able to talk to both the young talents as well as the experienced players, that knows how to win and knows about the magnitude of the game. And to me, Carlo Ancelotti would be one of them.
No doubt he could do the job. The question is, would he want the job if offered to him? Let's wrap up our last topic here. Arne Slot, the Feyenoord manager, he now seems like the leader in the clubhouse to succeed Jurgen Klopp. For Feyenoord last year, they won the league. They came out for winning the Dutch Cup last week. Stevie, that's your former club, the one club I guess you're most closely associated with. I will say that. Your thoughts on a Slot potentially coming in for Klopp, and what do you think of that appointment if it happens?
Well, by all accounts, he ticks all the boxes. The way he plays the game is not dissimilar to the way that Klopp and Liverpool play the game. So that's a positive. You're coming into a situation where the message to players isn't too dissimilar to the one they already had. The question really is his personality for me. That's what's going to decide for me whether he's going to be a success or not, because in terms of the way he plays the game, in terms of the way his teams play the game, in terms of coaching, all of those things, he ticks every single box. And he supposedly, again, he has a strong personality. He's quite a chirpy guy, he's no shrinking violet. But to me, that's what's going to be the difference between him being a success and not. He's going to have to be a real strong personality to step into the shoes of Jurgen Klopp. When he steps through the front door, every player will have respect for them. But they'll be watching and listening to everything and every word he says for a period of time when they decide, am I going to follow this guy? Or am I not sure about this guy? Or do I don't want anything to do with this guy? I mean, so it really is to me about his personality. He's got a great staff behind him, certainly upstairs in terms of bringing players in. We just got to look at Chelsea and Man United, and there's the proof that it's a huge part of it is recruitment. And Liverpool have been fantastic at the recruitment, and there's no reason to suggest that's going to change. So yeah, it's about his personality for me, nothing else. He ticks every single box that you'd require. Clearly, he's only ever had experience in Holland. But as I said, he's walking into a team that needs a little tweaking. He's got some great players to work with, and that shouldn't be a problem. So it's how he's viewed by the players in terms of strength of character as much as anything for me.
Yep, spot on. This is the most important decision Liverpool Football Club will make in modern history, I think. Because in the same manner that Sir Alex Ferguson meant to Manchester United and Arsene Wenger meant to Arsenal, it's the same way of how Liverpool fans feel about Jurgen Klopp. And I said that a few weeks ago on another show. This is, in terms of, ticking the boxes, Arne Slot absolutely does it. He likes to switch between a 4-3-3 and a 4-3-2-1. He's a proven winner. He's defensively aggressive off the ball. Many things are very similar to what Liverpool have been used to under Jurgen Klopp. But the most important thing, and something that nobody's going to replicate, by the way, is what Jurgen Klopp has given to Liverpool as a person, his relationship with the community, how Anfield just connects with him and vice versa. You can't repeat that. You can't echo that. So the next best thing is to, try and get somebody, just like Stevie said, that has not the same exact carbon copy personality, but somebody that can create that same type of euphoria, because that's really going to be the difference. And it's funny that the other alternative is Ruben Amorim, because he does have that personality. His resume and history and the way he has climbed up from the very bottom to the very top is very similar to the way that Jurgen Klopp sees the game. So it would be great if you could mix both Arne Slot and Amorim all in one person, and that's exactly who you have, but that's not so to be it. But I'm with Stevie on this one. Liverpool's biggest task, and it's a massive one, because you're replacing a legend. Jurgen Klopp will leave Liverpool as a legend. And it's not just because of the wins or the football, it's because of what he gave to Liverpool as a manager. That's not going to be able to replicate itself. So you need to bring a manager that can bring his own personality and his own persona, but have that same type of connection with the club. Arne Slot is a tremendous manager, and so is Ruben Amorim. It's just that maybe one tactically suits better than the other one, but Stevie's correct. It needs to be somebody that from a personality perspective, a chemistry perspective, it can work. It's going to be very interesting to see who they end up at the end of the day, but it's the same seriousness as when Arsene Wenger said goodbye to Arsenal and Sir Alex Ferguson said goodbye to Manchester United.
Well, that's what's next. Just real quick, fellas. Today, they do have the last Merseyside derby will be played for Klopp is on the sidelines. LME, you first. Give me a quick score prediction. Stevie, you follow.
Well, I mean, you know, Everton are going through their issues on and off the field, and Liverpool are right now in under pressure mode. So I see it's going to be a very tough first 45 minutes. But as the game develops, especially because Mohamed Salah, Darwin Núñez, a lot of players didn't start in the previous game, they're going to feel fresher. It's going to be, you know, a 2-0 win for Liverpool, I think.
Stevie?
I'm going to go 2-1 win for Liverpool. Clean sheets have been hard to come by for Liverpool.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
as much
I
as
just did it because of my fantasy football team, Stevie.
Yeah. I mean, on paper, this is a mismatch. But Merseyside derbies aren't played on paper. You've got to play it on grass, and it's at Goodison. Incredible atmosphere for a derby. Things are just harder at Goodison than they are at Anfield. But I think Liverpool ultimately will win. I'm going to, as I said, 2-1. But this kind of worries me a little because it's a derby, because Liverpool, they're a little inconsistent, both going forward and defensively. So it is a bit of a worry. But I think ultimately they'll pull through and 2-1. And
I think the good thing, Dalen, is that they, like I said, like a lot of their key players did not start in the last game, and that's going to help. So it was a gamble from Jurgen Klopp to do that, but like it worked. And I think Salah is going to be really up for this. I think Stevie's right. I think it's going to be a tough game. A Merseyside derby is never easy. Those first 45 minutes are going to be very difficult. But as the game develops, because I think Calvert-Lewin isn't playing, Beto's hurt, I think that Everton are going to run out of like ideas creatively, and Liverpool eventually going to counter and score. I think Darwin Núñez will get one as well.
Okay, we'll find out. 8 o'clock local time kickoff there over in England, and you can watch the ESPN FC TV guys, 6 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock p.m. Break it down with the results from that game and also the other 3 games in the Premier League. LME, Stevie, great to see you as always. We'll catch you Friday, noon Eastern.